Hey everyone, welcome to another week in the Abyss. It is 1985 to start off week 4 of this My Favorite 50 for 50 years. Film-wise, we have another big stack, actually a record so far of these videos. I have 14 to show you guys. And then on the music side, it's much smaller. Not a huge year in 85 for me in the music. But we'll start right off with the film. The first one I want to show you guys is Rocky IV. This is more specifically showing to you guys because, of course, my dad RJ is in the film, so it's special to me. It's something I remember, going to the bus stop when I was a sophomore in high school and telling my friends about Apollo dying and so on, and ruining the movie because I had the script and knew what was going on. So those memories come back, and of course, being able to watch my dad, in this film is always a neat and special thing. So I wanted to at least start off 1985 movies with Rocky IV, which, by the way, for a 4th edition of this series, no, it's not the best Rocky, but it's still a pretty strong Rocky film. And these first 4 are really good. So it deserves a shout out for sure. Next up, I'm going to go with Vision Quest. He's a high school wrestler trying to get to weight so he can fight or wrestle the state champion Matthew Modine. It's a fun high school film. It's a fun film of hard work and challenging yourself and trying to be the best. And then on the side, of course, he's fallen in love. That's typical 80s romantic comedy sports movie type thing. All right, moving on. John Candy, Summer Rental. Co-starring Richard Crenna. He is a renter. Richard Crenna lives there, so there's a rivalry, and it's the banter between them. And, I'm a huge John Candy fan. I think he knew who he was, and I think he marketed himself well, and he did John Candy films. And this is another example of him just being him, and that series of movies that he's done through the years was phenomenal, and he's definitely left his mark in comedy history. Which leads me into another John Candy film. He's a co-lead in this, Brewster's Millions, with Richard Pryor. Richard Pryor is a baseball pitcher. John Candy's his catcher. Richard Pryor inherits $30 million to spend in 30 days with no assets to inherit the true inheritance of $300 million, and the shenanigans begin. It's a really fun comedy. Next up, a girl high school comedy. Sarah Jessica Parker, Helen Hunt, Shannon Doherty. Girls just want to have fun. They go to a girls' school, and Sarah Jessica Parker sneaking out, trying to go do these dance lessons with her partner so they can get on the show Dance TV, and it's all of a challenge and stuff like that. Another good, fun high school teen comedy. Next up is, I have to laugh, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's all about the bike. If you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, you need to watch it. And remember, tell them Large Marge sent you. Val Kilmer, real genius. I think people don't realize that Val Kilmer has really good comedic chops. He is really funny in this movie. He's got great timing from the outfits, which is not really him, but the way he uses it to his advantage to be funny. He's got great timing. He's got great one-liners. It's a fun movie about these geniuses that their professors taking advantage of, and it's a good start to Val Kilmer's career. It's a really fun one. If this was on TV, I'm watching it. It's that good. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. All right, moving on to my favorite Western is Silverado. Kevin Kline, Kevin Costner, Scott Glenn, Danny Glover. It's a really great film. Like I said, it's not your serious Western. It's more of a lighthearted Western, and they're great together, and it's a lot of fun. A really good film for 1985. Next up is Matt Dillon and the Flamingo Kid. Like I told you the other day, I'm a huge Matt Dillon fan in the 80s. I loved his movies. This is another great one, starring Richard Crenna, who we just mentioned from Summer Rental, and then the other day from First Blood, and a lot of different stuff. He's a member at a high-end beach club, Matt Dillon works there, kind of works his way into the card game. It's a fun romantic comedy. It also stars Janet Jones, who of course now is Janet Gretzky, married Wayne Gretzky a few years later. She's great as the co-lead. You got Jessica Walters, who is a great actress. She plays Richard Crenna's wife, and it's just a really good, fun film. Oh, and Matt Dillon's dad is played by Hector Elizondo, and we talk about Hector Elizondo in our workshop quite a bit because he's one of those character actors where he's done over 100 films in his career, and if you heard the name, you're like, I've heard of him, but you have to see the face, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy. He's fantastic as Matt Dillon's dad. This is a really, really fun film. Next up, one that you probably all know and all have seen, Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid. Pat Morita, of course, as Mr. Miyagi. Elizabeth Shue as Allie, and it's a great film. If you get a chance on YouTube, check out the little clip that it says that Daniel was the bully. It's pretty funny when it's edited together, and it kind of gives a different twist to this movie. But how can you go wrong with the Karate Kid? This is just a fantastic movie. Okay, moving on. The next comedy I have here is Clue. We talk about this quite a bit. They just try to recreate this in a sense in Knives Out. But to me, it's all about the cast. And, when you have Martin Mull and Madeline Kahn and Tim Curry and, Eileen Brenneman, Michael McKean, it's just Leslie Ann Warren. I mean, it's just such a great cast. The banter, the energy, the fun, and then you add the idea of the board game into it, and it's really a really strong comedy mystery movie. That leaves me to my 3 finalists. At number 3 is Back to the Future. I mean, what can we say? Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd. It's such a good movie. Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover. Holy cow! Everybody's so good at this in this movie. It's a lot of fun, and we all know the movie and we all know the story, but it's got to be recognized. It's a classic, and I mean, and this is a box set. My Blu-ray is a box set. You have to have all 3. I mean, one is not enough. But this is the year 1985 that we get the original Back to the Future, and away we go. At number 2 is The Breakfast Club. Once again, we all know it, but it's a classic, and it all comes down to cast. You take these kids, Emilio Estevez, Judd Nelson, Ali Sheedy, Anthony Michael Hall, Molly Ringwald, and then you put them with the principal or the vice principal, and it's just another great high school comedy, and the continuity and the energy and the banter is off the charts. And once again, we all know the film, but it's got to be up there because it is an all-time classic. However, it's not my number 1. My number 1 is Chevy Chase in Fletch. I just love it. I love the one-liners. I love him as all the different characters. He's carrying the film. I mean, there's a lot of other actors and actresses around him. You'll see Gina Davis early in her career working with him at the newspaper building. You'll see Norm from Cheers, right? George Wendt. He's a bum on the beach, but it's mainly Chevy Chase as Fletch and him trying to figure this out. The main rival in it or villain, if you will, is Tim Matheson, of course, from Animal House. He's in it. He hires Fletch to kill him because he says he's dying of cancer, and then him being a reporter starts doing the investigation and digs a little deeper and finds what's what, and that's the film. It is terrific. It is hilarious. It stands the test of time, and I know I say this a bunch, but definitely one of my favorite comedies of all time. So if you have not seen Fletch, you need to watch it. It's a classic. Okay, on the music side, like I said, it's not going to be too long today, but I wanted to cover a few albums for the year. The first I'm going to show you guys is Scarecrow, and at this point it's John Cougar Mellencamp. The other day we were talking about branding, and when John Mellencamp first got in the music world, his name was John Cougar, and then he wanted to implement his name, so he kind of segued it into John Cougar Mellencamp. So he kept the brand of John Cougar, but he's starting to get his name in there. And then eventually he drops the Cougar, and now we know him as John Mellencamp. But that's establishing a brand, keeping a brand, and building the brand back to how he wanted it to be. This is my favorite. I mean, there's other ones, American Fool a few years back, of course, Aha a couple years ago. But Rain on the Scarecrow, Small Town, ROCK in the USA, Lonely Old Night. This is a really, really strong rock, pop, once again, album, and it was one of my favorites in the 80s, and especially 1985 when it came out, and this is another one I do own on record. Another one I wanted to point out was Rat, Invasion of Your Privacy, another strong, arena rock type band. We were talking about the Scorpions yesterday. This is Rat in their heyday. I remember listening to this cassette driving to school, or during workouts, during football or whatever. It's a really good rock album. And once again, you can listen to all these songs and never have to skip one. It's just them in their heyday, and it was powerful. And I haven't been able to recognize some of these bands, so I want to make sure that I do. And here's Rat. The other one to check out is the one that came out before this, and that's Out of the Cellar. That one's had the mega hit Round and Round. This one has You're in Love. It has Lay It Down, Never Use Love. Got Me on the Line. This is a really good one as well. So check out those two if you get a chance. My Iron Maiden is actually a live album, and I almost did not show it to you because I was showing you the studio albums, but yesterday we talked about the clip on the head, and I was talking about the details and how important it is. But with Live After Death, where you have him breaking out of the grave, you see that actually the light is beaming from that clip on the forehead, and as you see, they do use that. It's not just it's a minor detail, it's part of the detail, and they use it in this album cover. And actually, of all my Iron Maiden albums and covers and stuff, I would say this is definitely one of my favorite. I just love the coloring in it. I love the shot of Eddie, and I think it's really cool. And this, this was recorded in Long Beach Arena back in 1985. They actually did 4 nights back then, and the DVD back then, it was recorded on VHS, was from another night of Long Beach, and this was from a different night. So it's cool that you don't have the same show on the video as the music. You have 2 different nights from the same 4 days here in Long Beach. But I mean, this has all the classics in it up to 1985, and it's definitely my favorite live album. And I'm not a huge live guy, but meaning on CD, unless they're really well done, this one is phenomenal. I mean, when you're listening to it, you can hear the guitars going back and forth on the speakers. Like, you feel like you're in the arena. It's really well done. But my number one for 1985 is Aha's Hunting High and Low. One of my first concerts I ever went to, Universal Amphitheater. They were surprisingly really, really good, and I enjoy, several of these records of theirs. This one, especially, it's really, really good. Yes, we know the hit Take on Me, but Hunting High and Low is great. Living a Boy's Adventure Tale, Train of Thought, one of my favorite Aha songs. It's just a really, really good pop record, and it does show you that I have all of this material and I have an open mind. There's a lot of great music. There's a lot of great movies, and even though I like a certain genre of music or a certain genre of film, it doesn't mean that I can't appreciate and enjoy bands like Aha. They are really, really musically talented, and they have a lot of great songs. And I really like this one. Like I said, I really like Train of Thought. Another one that was huge is The Sun Always Shines on TV. That was the other big hit other than Take on Me. And then they just had a really strong career. But also, when you're able to connect to something, it has a little bit more value. And being able to know that this was one of my first concerts and it was on this tour, I'm gonna appreciate this album a little bit more. So for 1985, Aha, Hunting High and Low, and then, like I said, the classic comedy Fletch. All right, you guys, leave the comments. I want to see your list. We're starting to see some lists finally. I want to see what you guys like, don't like, etc. And then we'll see you tomorrow as we go into 1986.